climbing, I'm losing my grip. Storage costs rising, they'll never let me skip. Refunds I'm eating, returns pile up too. Oh, Amazon, what else will you do? I look at my dashboard, my profits erased. My margins are gone, it's a slap in the face. Prime Day's a promise, but it's such a race. How much will I make if I'm replaced? It's a cruel, cruel number. Fees keep climbing, profits torn asunder. Oh, it's cruel, the sellers wonder how to survive when the margins go under. It's a cruel, cruel number. Every month it's something new to plunder. Oh, it's cruel, it's no wonder we're stuck in this game. The algorithm's thunder.
Yo, Amazon's back, and they got a new scheme. Reimbursement slashed, it's every seller's dream. They're digging deep, taking more from the pot. Let's break it all down, expose what they got. March 25, it's a policy drop. They say manufacturing costs, but we know it's a flop. Give us your cogs, they're demanding the price. But if you don't, they'll estimate nice. Nice for them, not for you. Watch your payout shrink. That comprehensive evil is a corporate wing. Lost in the warehouse, damaged on the floor. Now they pay you pennies, not a cent more. Fees on the rise, profits on the run. They don't lift a finger, but they pocket the fun. We're fair! They shout while they cut our shares. Amazon math, man, it's full of errors. Fees, taking our dough. They're stacking the deck, and it's sellers who owe. Reimbursement? Nah, they're taking us down, but we're still here, we don't mess around. Fees, straight to the top. Amazon's game, it'll never stop. Margins tight, but we keep the grind. Sellers unite, we're one of a kind.
I try to sell my product on Amazon, thought it'd be a breeze. But little did I know I'd be stuck with seller support disease. They never seem to solve my problems, just give me the runaround. I'm tired of waiting on hold. My patience is wearing thin, I'll never be found. Amazon seller support, you suck, you suck, you suck. Can't get no satisfaction. I'm out of luck, out of luck, out of luck. You don't care about my business, just trying to make a buck. Amazon seller support, you suck, you suck, you suck.
This one's for the sellers on the grind, getting left on red, wasting all their time. I hit up support, got an auto reply. Thanks for your patience, man, I wanna cry. Inventory lost, my margins are toast. Reps playing tag like the Casper the Ghost. They pass me around, it's a never-ending game. Nobody takes action, everybody shifts blame. My ASIN's down, I'm out of the race. They say they'll escalate, yo, what a disgrace. Amazon seller support, you're breaking my heart. No answers, no fixes, just tearing me apart. Hours in the queue, stuck in the dark. Amazon seller support, you're missing the mark.
Amazon game plan, that is the key. Seller central dashboard, that's where I be. Analyze the funnel, see what we lack, then we optimize. Sellers know it's a fact. I get it popping, you know that it's lit. Climbing the rankings, ain't no room to quit. I check the data, they notice the stats. I keep the method, that's how you adapt. Metrics are showing, you know it's our cap. Amazon sellers, it's time to react. I'm about that action, I do this with passion. I got them like, whoa, what is this? Huh, whoa.
I don't know, dude. I think everybody's just buying stuff based on reviews and badges or whatever. They don't even know who we are. These customers don't even know the name of my brand. But they keep clicking add to cart like it's part of the plan. They see that Amazon badge and think it's all grand. But yo, they don't even know the name of my brand.
Click, scroll, build your store. Amazon's waiting, what you waiting for? Brand it loud, make it shine. Steven's here to drop the rhyme. Blue tiles, banners, plug and play. Your storefront's live, let's sell a day. Now listen up, I'm Steven Pope. Amazon guru, I'll help you cope. Step 1, get that trademark stamped. Without brand registry, your Amazon cramped. Head to Seller Central, log in quick. Manage stores tab, yeah, that's the trick. Upload your logo, flex that style. You're about to make Jeff Bezos smile. Where pick a template, marquee or grid. Drop your tiles like a branding whiz. Hero image, big and bold. This store's gonna glitter like digital gold. Flex, grow, build your store. Amazon's waiting, what you waiting for? Brand it loud, make it shine. Steven's here to drop the rhyme. Blue tiles, banners, plug and play. Your storefront's live, let's sell today. Yo. In the trenches of the Amazon game, trying to survive while it's driving me insane. Nobody warns you, they just claim it's passive income. Nah, it's pain. I'm sitting at a birthday, laughing, chilling, next to a newbie Amazon seller spilling. She's like, Prime so smooth, it's a killer. Then tried to sell, now she's stuck in a thriller. Finding products, yeah, that's the first grind. Scrolling Alibaba, losing my mind. Sample suck, manufacturers decline. I'm like, dang, how's anyone doing this fine? Ship it in, pay for the bubble wrap, but they ship glass bottles in padded crap. Now I got hot sauce leaks, refund stacked, customers pissed. Man, I'm under attack. Amazon's a beast, it's a fight, no peace. From SEO to PPC, the hustle don't cease. Think it's passive? Nah, you better increase your tolerance for chaos or face defeat. Trademark wars, brand registries a scam. They banned my brand, now I'm in a jam. Listings yanked, products ranked and tanked. Lost dogs in the catalog, my account shanked. Now let's talk ads, it's a rabbit hole. 1,000 hours deep, man, it's taking my soul. Weekly negations, bulk sheets for control. Excel's my new weapon, but it's taking its toll. SEO's no joke, keywords in the game. Alt text, A+ content, playing insane. Lifestyle shots, avatars for fame, but the CTR's low. All products look the same. Amazon's a beast, it's a fight, no peace. From SEO to PPC, from SEO to PPC, the hustle don't cease. Think it's passive? Nah, you better increase your tolerance for chaos or face defeat.
Let's go to Mac School. To Mac School. Class is now in session with Professor Pope. They got the SOP, cause Professor Pope wrote the recipe. Helping Amazon sellers grow sales exponentially. Amazon's a jungle, but we map the strategy. Brand strategist playbook, it's a guide to victory. Troubleshooting catalogs, you know we got the answer key. Boosting all your rankings, turning sales into a legacy. SOB so deep, you'd think we studied at Mac School. Every step we follow leads to growth, yeah, it's a golden loop. Stuck on keywords, we'll find the ones that work the best. Using Helium 10, strike distance keywords pass the test. Incremental indexing ensures the listing set to rise. From the back end to the bullets, optimization hits the skies. Brand store creation, yeah, we make it shine and flow. A+ content design makes conversions overflow. Need your images on point, best practices in the plan. All text and photo rules ensure your visuals command. SEO meets PPC, it's balanced, every step aligned. We'll construct the MKLs that drive rankings over time. Budget caps and bid adjustments, no more wasted spending. Segmentation builds campaigns that sellers can defend. Got a hijacker, no problem, we'll file to take them down. Review requests in action, 5-star ratings come around. Flat file updates, market share reports, it's all in reach. Professor Pope wrote the SOP so sellers learn and teach.
Meanwhile, my Amazon guys on the case, fixing up my problems at lightning pace. Ticket escalations, Mag's the boss. Even Amazon says we'll take the loss. Seller support don't know what's up. Passing the buck when the issue gets tough. They're the official team, but they can't comply. So they say, reach out to my Amazon guy. They're supposed to be the pros, but they can't decode policies and tools from their own damn road. I'm paying fees, yet they bring me stress. But Mag turns my chaos into pure success. Seller support reps, they throwing shade, but then admit, yo, Mag will get you paid. Third-party agency taking the throne while Amazon fumbles in their own damn zone. Seller support don't know what's up. Passing the buck when the issue gets tough. They're the official team, but they can't comply. So they say, reach out to my Amazon guy. So here's the truth, let's keep it real. Mag's the team with the pro-level skill. Amazon sellers, you know the vibe when support says call Mag. They'll give you peace of mind. Amazon seller support, you can suck my image stack. Sucking is all you're good at anyway. Bezos, hit me up if you want to sell seller support. I'm buying. There's a chase. Peace.
All right. Welcome, everybody. We're going to be talking about your ads, how you can improve them. And I'm super excited to be joined by a special guest expert who's going to be helping us solve the problem of ads and getting more sales and doing so profitably. So super excited to bring on David Goldenberg from 11 Ads for Brands. So David, thank you for joining us here on this PPC AMA today.
Thanks so much for having me, Kevin.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So for folks who are not familiar with you, give us a quick 411. Who are you and what do you do?
Sure. So I've been in digital marketing for about 20 years. Around 7 years ago, I joined this Amazon seller who was looking for a bit of help with his marketing. One thing led to another, and the brand grew from about 30 million a year when the year that I joined to about 57 million a couple of years later. And that eventually led to me founding this agency.
Awesome. Well, we're super excited to have you here. I'm sure you've seen a lot of what happens in ad accounts and can answer questions for folks joining us. So the good news is for folks watching, you can get a new perspective on your ads, not just Kevin's perspective or Mag's perspective, but we bring on all kinds of folks here. So we're all about getting more and more answers to your questions, because the truth will always rise to the top. We only bring on the good people here. So super excited to have David here. So we'll get into your questions. For those of you who've never joined us before, my spiel, or spiel as some people like to say, is to always remind everybody that we tend to run out of time before we run out of questions. We'll go until the top of the hour. It is 12:03 Eastern time right now. So we'll be going for about another 57 minutes. So that means if you would like to get your question answered, the best time to ask it is now, because if you try to ask it like at, I don't know, 12:49, I might not be able to get to it. So if you ask it now, you probably get David to answer your question. If not, you may not get your question answered at all. So don't wait till the end, because the queue is already building. There's more and more people asking their questions. So real quick, David, where are you joining us from?
I'm joining you guys from Jerusalem, Israel. And
awesome.
Yeah, I grew up in Canada, moved here about 15 years ago.
Okay,
and,
gotcha.
Visited with you guys in Florida a few times, beautiful sunny Florida. And,
gotcha. Yes, I'm in Florida. For folks who are not familiar, I'm in Southeast Florida near West Palm Beach.
Nice.
Yes. So for those of you watching, let us know in the comments, where are you joining us from? We'd love to know. Give us a shout out and represent wherever you're joining from. And with that, why don't we go ahead and get into some of the questions we already have here, and we'll get to your those of you watching your comments about where you're joining us from. So we'd love to know. And is that, I'm curious, let us know when you comment, is that home or is that someplace you're visiting currently? So with that, let's go ahead and get into this. Why So Cute says, hi, Kevin. Hello, Why So Cute? Why So Cute is a regular on the stream. Then we have Anthony Clary. I'm not 100% sure, but Anthony's been here for a couple of shows. I'm relaunching soon with Mag's A+ content and listing image assets after spending $900 on PPC with no conversions. I want to treat that ad spend as a data purchase so I can rebuild the right way. Yes, good way to look at it. We want to make sure that we are looking at our ads as data. It's there's no failures, only learning, as they say.
Yeah.
Yes, you only fail if you stop trying. So this is a multi-point question, which I'll do my best to get to everybody's question here. But Anthony has a few questions, so just I'm going to shoot them out as somewhat of a lightning round here, David, and I'll let you answer Anthony's question. So number one, in exact, should I prioritize lower competition keywords around 250 searches a month over the highest volume terms? So this is just a context. This person is someone who has spent money on ads, redid their listing. They did not get conversions from ads. I think they had some organic, if I remember correctly, from a previous live stream. But they weren't getting anything from ads. So what is your suggestion if Anthony was your client?
That's a great question. So it'd be great, honestly, to know a bit more if these lower competition keywords are some of the keywords that you targeted before, or if there are different keywords that you want to target now, and maybe the A+ content is meant to show that your listing is more relevant to those. Now, take, let's say some average click-through rates between 1 to 3%, let's call it. So if, Helium 10 or whichever tool is telling you you've got 250 searches a month, even if you get a decent click-through rate, let's call it 3% or 4%, we're saying maybe you'll get like 10 clicks a month over, 30 days. So even if you convert, let's say you convert an Amazon average around 10%, give or take, for products, let's say up to $50. Again, I'm making a lot of assumptions. If you can share more detail in the comments, that'd be great, so we can give you a better answer. But if you had, let's say, a 10% average conversion rate, we're talking about maybe one order in a month. It's pretty hard to optimize with that kind of low data volume. And so I would instead try to take those same keywords and just target them with slightly broader match types, for example, going to phrase or broad. And in fact, we've seen a trend with Amazon where they try to favor the match types where they have more control. You'll hear also Stephen sharing this a lot. He's always encouraging people not to turn off their browse, not to turn off their automatics, not to negate it. And he's right. So that's the way the algorithm is heading. There is definitely value to the control you have with Exact, but Amazon want more and more of the control. And if you want to optimize, you need to have enough data, right? So let's say a month goes by and you have that order. Is that ACoS your real ACoS, or are you going to have to wait another month to get another order and another month to get a third order, and then you've got somewhat of a direction on what your real ACoS is, supposing, just for argument's sake, you want to manage to a certain target ACoS. So if you target with phrase abroad, then you can get more traffic and have a pattern much sooner, so that you can take action and get the results that you want, hopefully sooner.
Okay, good deal. So all of a sudden I'm getting an echo.
I haven't changed anything.
Okay, no worries. Let's try this here. So
in the highest volume terms, I would
it's okay.
As well. I wouldn't ignore those.
Gotcha. All right. So next up, in broad, should I isolate one strong root keyword or run multiple broad keywords together?
That's a good question. So if you're talking about doing broad match for a keyword that consists of just one word, and in the past you spent $900 without having any conversions, probably that's a little too aggressive with your targeting. I would try a few more words to make sure that your search terms are more relevant. And it also makes a difference if you're using sponsored products or sponsored brands, because in sponsored brands, the broad match works a little differently. A lot of people don't know this, but you have broad match modified and not modified, just regular in sponsored brands, which means you can add a plus sign before any word that you want to require Amazon to have in the search term with sponsored brands, and that's called broad match modified. And if you don't include a plus sign, then any related term can show up in your search term. Now, it used to be this was horrible, and so we only did broad match modified. Recently, we've found Amazon giving much better performance on broad match unmodified. And so I would test both of those, with the exception if you're targeting your own brand terms. So then I would definitely make sure you have the plus sign on your brand name, because you don't want to pay, the higher bids that you're going to usually do for brand terms, and they're not actually including it in the search term.
Okay, good deal. All right, so next up, we have another question from Anthony. Should I test Dayparting, let's say 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., or avoid that at this stage?
I would probably say it's a bit premature. If you're going for, if you're just restarting your PPC, you want to have enough data. And enough data, just for context, that's a common question. How many clicks do I know until, for example, I can just pause the keyword entirely if it's not working, for example, right? And so we like to think about it in terms of patterns. And it's funny because we got this from these books of Jewish wisdom written thousands of years ago, and then we asked a question to math PhDs, and they basically came up. They did the math and came up to basically the same answer. And so what you want is enough clicks that you would see at your normal conversion rates, 3 conversions, right? That's enough to see a pattern. So if, let's say you've got a 10% conversion rate, you had 30 clicks and you don't see any conversions, at that point, you can posit the math PhDs to be precise, told us 95%, I think it was statistical significance certainty, at 35 clicks. So if you're considering keywords where you might get 10 clicks a month, then don't mess around with the Dayparting yet. You need more volume for that to be helpful.
And late night shoppers, their money goes into the bank account too.
That's a good point.
Yes. All right, good deal. And then Anthony Clary says, is 50% top of search modifier on exact or 0% on phrase broad auto a good relaunch step? Or what are your thoughts in general about the modifiers on like top of search, rest of search, all that stuff?
Yeah, I think the modifiers can be really beneficial. I'd love to hear also your take on it, Kevin. We do like to use that, especially for top of search, but there's a lot of different ways to win on Amazon. Sometimes it'll be product pages, sometimes it's rest of search, especially if you're like in a competitive category where top of search is really dominated by people who have more reviews or cheaper pricing, whatever. So try it out, see if you can get that traffic and if it converts well enough for you at an acceptable ACoS. But don't be like, I have to do top of search, because there's a lot you can do with product pages and rest of search, and also your audience targeting, right? With sponsored products in particular, you've got the high likelihood to purchase audience, which generally does pretty well. And in sponsored brands, the click or added to cart also, those will usually give you a higher click-through rate and a lower and a higher conversion rate as well. Even though you're bidding higher, you might end up with a lower ACoS because of the higher performance.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people just have in their head, like, it has to be top of search. It has to be top of search. But to your point, right, what if it comes from rest of search? What if it comes from product pages? Again, that money goes into your bank account too. So so my general take is double down on what actually works and you don't know yet.
Yeah.
Especially if, right now you have no conversion data. And then for off Amazon placements, should I use increase reach or limit reach, or is there a dynamic bid rule still down only? Or do you even suggest at this point they should be focusing on off Amazon placements?
I would not go with the off Amazon placements. I'm trying to think. It's Steven who talked about this a while ago. I'm not sure. Anyway, somebody was saying like they had like very little data even on quite large accounts. So I wouldn't give it too much attention. But in a previous life, I did SEO and PPC with Google, and the traffic that came from their network partners was much lower quality than Google itself. And so my intuition would be not to try to get that traffic, to try to avoid it for now.
Yeah, exactly. Because it sounds like this person still has a lot they can mine, so to speak, on Amazon. Yeah. And so until you hit that ceiling, there's no sense wasting your time and budget on off Amazon placements just yet. Other than it just sounds cool. I can get sales.
I'm gonna be everywhere.
Yeah, I want to get it from Fox News and CNN and both sides of the aisle and all this stuff. It's like, no, just get it from Amazon for now. All right. And then the last question from Anthony here, and then we'll start getting some other questions, is using the low end of Amazon suggested bids and adjusting daily a smart strategy, or what should my daily, weekly, monthly workflow look like instead?
I'm not a big fan of daily adjustments for several reasons. For one thing, Amazon has this kind of a sandbox. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this, Kevin. I'd really love to hear your take on it. But the there's something with new campaigns where until I remember like for a while, like just seeing it like very explicitly in aged accounts with products that had lots of reviews and all that. We would launch a campaign, see just like very minimal impressions for a few days, and then once Amazon caught on that this thing was getting good click-through rate, the impressions would spike up like 10x or something. And so I'm like, oh, okay, they want to see that your ad can kind of prove itself against the other ads in their system. And so definitely for the first few days, at least 3-4 days, maybe even a week, I just wouldn't touch the bids. After a week, if you see that you're not getting traffic, then yeah, it would go up, maybe 10% at a time. In that range, you can do 15% depending. And it's a funny thing. You see these tools saying, we're going to do daily bid management and thousands of bids and going to get managed. And like, we've had the good fortune to work on some very large accounts, and there's less than 20 keywords that I would even consider touching daily. And we're talking like keywords that are in the top 500 keywords on Amazon search term. From Amazon's own data, they tell you in brand analytics. So you don't need to worry about daily bid management on the same keyword, right? You might have some keywords that have accumulated enough data on Tuesday that when you looked on Monday or Sunday, they didn't have enough data, but not that you would manage the same keyword every day. But
yeah, it's a good point.
I'd really love to hear how you guys treat that. It's an interesting question.
Well, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it all comes down to data sufficiency. Data sufficiency that you can actually make a decision because you're like, oh, I got a click yesterday. Is it really enough data? Or even if you got 3 clicks in a sale, like, okay, great. You have a 33% conversion rate, but are your next 7 clicks going to convert the same way? Probably not. Now you have a 10% conversion rate for the last 10 clicks. So you got to think of it like that. And then back to this part about the suggested bids. Do you look at Amazon suggested bids? If you do, where are you in the spectrum of what they suggest?
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. I missed that the first time. Sorry. I tend not to use suggested bids. It's a little difficult right when you're starting because you need some guidance. What you can do is just figure out what your allowable cost per click is if you assume a certain conversion rate. So again, just to keep the math simple, if you have a 10% conversion rate and you have, let's say, $5, or let's call it $15 for the fun of it. Yeah, $15 of margin on your product. So that means that if you just want to break even, you can spread those $15 across 10 clicks. So you can afford to spend $1.50 per click. And since there's usually at least a little bit of a gap between your bid and what you actually pay per click, so maybe you want to put your bids around like $1.60 or something to break even, right? If you want to have a profit from your ads, which I would recommend. So you go a bit lower than that and then adjust according to how many impressions you're getting, what your organic ranking, and whatever other goals you've got.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because at the end of the day, Amazon suggestions are not, let's just say, they're not coming down from
on high.
On high, yes. Nobody's coming with a stone tablet saying, "Hey, here's the here are your click range for this keyword." There's Amazon suggestions, which you got to understand. Amazon is a for-profit company. Their goals and our goals are not at odds, but they're not aligned. They just overlap. And so where that overlap differs is they're going to want you to spend more on your clicks overall. So it's not a nefarious thing. It's just they're going to suggest a little higher than I think you need to. Is that your experience?
Yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head, Kevin. Like the suggested bids is for their Amazon ads team to hit their quarterly results. It's not suggested to hit your profit targets.
Right, exactly. And just keep in mind, Jeff Bezos, although he didn't say it in the terms of sellers, but he has famously said, your margin is my opportunity. Fairness, this was like in the 2000s when he was talking more about his competition. That
Okay.
he was going to squeeze them out with
Okay.
his ability to be more efficient.
Okay.
But that mindset is across the company. You know what I mean?
I think that's a fair
That
point.
mindset didn't go away, even if it's a different context. It has not
No, it
gone
didn't.
away. All right. Next up, Why So Cute asks, how do you decide when to negate a search term versus lowering bids, especially if it has mixed performance across campaigns?
Oh, that is really good. We have little Google Sheets that we keep for our clients. We call them keyword libraries. And essentially what it is a list of individual words that perform better or worse for the clients. And then we tend to break it down either by product or by product line. So for example, let's say you've got coffee mugs that are, large, medium, small, right? So the word large probably is not going to sell you a lot of small coffee mugs, and the word small is probably not going to sell you a lot of large coffee mugs, right? So you'd want to negate those respectively. And whenever you launch a new campaign, you don't need to wait for the data to come in and figure out, oh, this is a campaign for the small, I should negate large again because it's not working. Like, you just know that either from your previous data or from doing the research even beforehand, right? Seeing what Amazon suggests when you start putting in, small coffee mug or coffee mug, and figuring out what those search suggestions are, and you can start building your negative keyword list even before you even have data. Now, how to decide on negating versus lowering the bid? I would say, again, going back to that pattern recognition, if we're seeing enough to have had at least 3 orders and it's not come through, and we have 0 orders, so that is a good argument for negating. Lowering bid is if we think that this is going to continue to produce sales, just the ACoS is not where we want it, and so we need to get it a bit lower. And also that the problem with the ACoS is because of the bid, because you could have problems with ACoS that are not because you're bidding too much, just because, for example, you're converting too poorly, or because your average order value is not high enough. For example, if you have variations, right? Maybe you're advertising one variation and you're selling a cheaper one, and so it's just not turning out to be worth it relative to the average order value you're getting. And so if it's got mixed performance across campaigns, I do like to look at the overall performance across multiple campaigns, but that's assuming it's the same product being advertised in both, right? And that's not necessarily the case. If it helps you, if you don't have that much data, you can also try to look at the performance between sponsored products and sponsored brands to try to tease out a pattern by combining that data to an extent.
Okay, good deal. Good deal. All right. If anyone has questions, feel free to drop them into the chat. Right now, we still have the good chance that we're going to be able to get to your question between now and the end of the stream, which will be happening for about a little more than a half hour. But then once we run out of time, we run out of time. And oftentimes I leave people disappointed because I didn't get to their questions. And I hate that. I hate that feeling of disappointing people. I don't want to disappoint people. So ask your questions now, because over time, as we start asking or answering more questions, what ends up happening is it tends to spawn new questions that people are watching, whether they just joined the stream or they've been watching since the beginning. So if you're watching this and you're like, should I ask that question? Yes. No one's going to laugh at you. They don't even know what your screen name is. And even if they did, they're just glad that you asked the question because they learned something new. All right. So next up, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Let's take this question. Go ahead.
Okay, good deal. All right. Jeffrey Valent says, I wanted to test audience targeting. Your thoughts in creating 2 separate exact match campaigns, both as the same keyword, but have one bid adjustment with the audience targeting. Is that a bad idea?
I think that's a great idea. Go for it. The campaigns may not perform the same, even if you look at the traffic that's not gotten the audience targeting. And so that may come as a surprise to people, but Amazon in its back end does a lot of layering, if you will.
Mhm.
So you might see I'm getting this percentage impression share on, let's call it coffee mug, right? But what they're not telling you is that the 10% or 30%, whatever it is, that you're getting is actually shoppers in North Carolina. And the 70% are in, spread across the rest of the country because for whatever reason you're not converting there, or you're converting really well in North Carolina.
Mhm.
And they figured that out on the one campaign for reasons I don't quite understand. They don't necessarily transfer that knowledge to the other campaign with the exact same keyword and the exact same product. And so if the impressions you get in the other campaign start showing in, let's say, Texas, and you don't convert as well, you might see these weird differences. So you might actually be able just to save yourself a little bit of management time comparing the data within the same campaign, because they'll show you what the performance was for the audience bid adjustment and then the performance of the campaign as a whole, which includes the audience bid adjustment. So all you need to do is to take the total data, deduct the results, the clicks, the spend, the sales for the audience, and that tells you what the rest of the campaign is doing. And that's essentially what you're trying to figure out with the other campaign. So you can just do that with some simple math, but by having it in the same campaign, at least you avoid this risk of having a boost from some sort of hidden factors behind the scene, right? Because they don't let us target by age, by gender, by geo, by a whole bunch of different things that they just sort of keep in their background. So that might be potentially a better approach, but especially with the older campaigns, right? In sponsored brands, you can't just go ahead and create an A/B test, for example, on an old campaign, and the old campaigns are not getting the audience bid adjustments. So we've had to do that with a lot of older campaigns that were performing well, but we're just rolling out audience bid adjustments across the whole account because they do really well. So definitely go ahead and test it. And if you can, if we're talking about new campaigns, then I would encourage you to maybe just do one campaign.
Okay, good deal. All right. Next up, Arsalan Analam. Sorry if I butchered your name. Should we have separate listings for every ASIN or have all SKUs under one parent ASIN in terms of PPC and long-term ranking?
Ooh, that's a nice one.
Mm.
It depends how related they are, right? Like if we're talking about the same, again, with the coffee mug analogy, I don't know why I'm stuck in the coffee mugs today.
It works. Maybe we just need a little coffee.
If you have like the same, let's say, graphic or whatever on the mug, and it's just this is the small, medium, and the large, yeah, keep it under the one parent ASIN. But if we're talking about, for example, a double insulated thermos type of tumbler versus just your classic ceramic mug, then I wouldn't put them under the same thing because they're pretty different. And you have pros and cons to both, right? So you have the review sharing, which Amazon's been a little bit iffy with. Sometimes they're just showing the reviews for the one ASIN, even if it's under the same parent ASIN as something with 10,000 reviews. And this one is a new product and you just got 20 reviews on it, they might just show the 20. So that's been a bit variable. Sometimes it gets the reviews shared or not, and I suspect the guys at Mag would have more insight as to when they share and when they don't share. And the benefit of having it under a separate parent ASIN is you can take up more space in the search results, right? Because they only show one child ASIN for organic or for ads. And if you've got two parents, you can get two slots and double down on valuable keywords.
Yes, all about getting those valuable keywords. All right, cool. All right, next up, we have a question coming in from Instagram from @Tycoon or Tycoon. How can I start FBA in 2026? What I should know and how much budget I need to start? how times have changed since 2015 when I first started.
Kevin, why don't you take this? I think you'll be able to better speak to that.
Yes. So it is much more competitive than it was back then. So you're going to need a much bigger budget. So what the extent of your budget is, it's going to be a lot different. And a lot of it's going to come to what is your risk tolerance. People have been asking the question, even in 2015 when I first started, people were saying like, oh, is it too late? You know, it was easier in 2012, 2013. It was always easier back when, which has always been true, but it has been progressively getting harder. So with that said, if you want to start on Amazon, you got to make sure you have a product that people would buy, something that's differentiated about it. You can't just take a white ceramic coffee mug and throw it out on Amazon. Something needs to be different. Something's differentiated. It has to be for, a particular audience, or, if you have a widget that solves a problem of some sort, it has to be something special about it. If you have headlamps, I don't even know why I have a headlamp on my desk, but like if you're selling headlamps, there needs to be something special about it. Is it something special that's like for plumbers and electricians, or is it more for camping? And you need to maybe target those two audiences, and maybe you have one for each, because the wording that's going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Resonating with the trades folks who might need this is going to be completely different than campers. So, and the pictures are going to be different and whatnot. So that would be my suggestion. And I know I just randomly threw out that idea, but you have to kind of have that mindset of what is the audience you're serving to, and not just, throw up keywords because they were relevant in Helium-10. What are your thoughts on how they would come up with, let's say somebody had a new product and they came to you and they said, how much should I budget for PPC?
That's a great question. You need to look at what the industry is we're talking about, and what the particular product is, right? So for example, do you want to start selling mattresses? So, if we're talking about an average order value that is $1,000, guess what? You need to spend a lot to sell a mattress, right? And the conversion rates are not going to be amazing for that, even on Amazon, which means you need to spend a lot more just to get that first sale and to see a pattern. So the flip side is, I would encourage you to start with something that costs a lot less, because you'll be able to see conversions faster and optimize on the data sooner. There is obviously a lot more competition because there's way more people who can source products that cost them, $1 a unit than there are people who source products costing them $30 a unit. But if you want to be able to optimize at a reasonable pace, I wouldn't necessarily go for $1 a unit, but that is definitely one consideration. If you look for things that are trending, that can be helpful. Not trending as in like seasonally trending, or trending like, kids are doing fidget spinners and in like 3 months you can move on to the next toy. But, for example, one of our clients years ago, I want to say, like almost right when I started working with them, they didn't have solar powered products yet, and we're seeing it over and over in the search terms, and nobody else yet had them from the competition. And so I suggested to the client, hey, why don't you source a bunch of solar powered variations on this product? He's like, actually, we're getting some, and they should be here in the summer, and they sold really well. And so if you can see, that there's a feature that's lacking, there's I think Fortune or something did a story on this years ago with some guy who did shower radios for the shower, and people were like, I want to sing in the shower and I need a radio, it's waterproof, but I just wish it would clip on the little soap holder. Don't know what that's called, soap holder. And none of them had like little arm, so he just made a waterproof radio with an arm to click or hang on, and he just took over that market pretty significantly. And then in terms of the budget you need to start, I think you just have a lot more knowledge about that than I would, Kevin.
Yeah. So the hard part is like, okay, so let's go back to the math we were talking about before of like, how much margin would you have per product? And then what would your conversion rate be? Which if you take 1 divided by conversion rate, that's going to give you the number of clicks it would take. Now we use 10%. That doesn't mean 10% is 10 clicks. It does, but that does not mean 1 divided by 8% is 8 clicks. It would be 12 to 13 clicks per sale.
Right.
I think it's 12 and a half. If my math on top of my head makes sense. So that means you don't want to get aggressive with conversion rates either. It's better to be a little conservative. So rather than say, oh, I think I can have a 12% conversion rate, you might want to say, maybe I'll budget an 8% conversion rate. Because in the beginning, you're going to have to dial in your images. What you think customers want is not necessarily going to be what they actually want. You're not going to have as many reviews, so you don't have that social proof. And so you're going to have to figure all these things out. So like, okay, so if it's, let's say you have an 8% conversion rate to start off with, and let's say you're saying it's going to take you, just for ease of math, 12 clicks to get a sale, and it's $1 a click. Well, that's $12 per sale that you're spending. So then from there, and I don't even know if $1 per click is reasonable in the category you're in. So you got to look at some of these things. Don't just go off of Amazon's suggestions and assume that they're correct. So because the Amazon might tell you 235 to 472, and you might do well at 73 cents. So, but just do that math and say, okay, if it's going to cost me $12 a sale, and if I want to sell 200 units a month, which is almost 7 units a day, I would need to spend 12 times 200, $2,400 a month in ads, plus your costs up front for the inventory. Because remember, you put out money for the inventory, and then you hope you get paid relatively soon. And initially, it's going to be slow to start. So just keep in mind, I think we said in the beginning, you only lose if you stop playing. But in the e-commerce game, cash flow is an issue. Because keep in mind, too, it's not just like, okay, I put $1 in, I get $1 back right away. It's you put thousands of dollars in, incrementally get dollars here and there, and then hopefully that's increasing. But by the time maybe you're starting to get a little bit of traction, now you got to place another order. And if you're using Chinese suppliers, it could be taking you 2-3 months to get more product in. They're going to want probably at least a 40 or 50% deposit up front. And then when it ships, that doesn't even mean you received it. Maybe it's 4 to 6 weeks after you place the order. It ships. So then you're getting that. So now all your money is basically sitting on a boat, and then it's got to get through customs, depending on what's going on in the world, executive orders, tariffs, this, that, sometimes things, or, government shutdowns. Everybody sees TSA. I don't know if that's affecting right now the, customs officials, if they're part of this this partial shutdown. So that might slow down the process to get stuff into the country. So it takes a little while. So you got to give yourself plenty of time. So you got to have the money. So it's almost like you really need, if you want to do this right, the money for your first 2 orders, not just your first order, but your second order, or at least have the funding ready to go. And, it's, so you kind of, to say, what is the budget? There's no $500 challenge anymore. There used to be stuff like that people would do, but you really got to figure out like, okay, how much is this going to cost? And do not say, I'm just going to leverage my house on this, especially if you've never done anything like this before and you don't have data of what works and what doesn't. So that would be my 2 cents. Anything else you want to add to that?
I think you're hitting the nail on the head that you need to make sure you're able to stay in stock once hopefully you do start selling. And budgeting for PPC is a good idea. Sometimes you, especially if it's new, you can just price really cheap to draw, more organic exposure and sell that way. You want to use also Vine reviews to speed up the process of getting reviews on your listing. For those of you who don't know, Vine is basically Amazon's version of giveaway products to get reviews on your listing. And people don't pay, but they have to leave a review within whatever amount of time. So that's something can help you to get started. But yeah, definitely keeping in mind that you're not going to live on the cash flow of the sales. A lot of that, if you're hopefully successful at selling, needs to go back into inventory, not necessarily the second order, but the third order. And before you're able to take money out of the business is a fair amount of time.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind. We're not trying to discourage, but I also don't want to tell people just go do it and figure it out. You could probably have done that in 2015, 2016, 2017, even 2020. A lot of people did, but those days are over. So it's people will still start businesses today and even in 5 years from now and be very successful, but you have to be much more intentional than you used to. And all right. So Fallon Cop Official says, hello, David and Kevin. What's your suggestion about building sales projection, either for launch and running product in your agencies, Dave and Kevin? You build them for clients and for your team. What are your thoughts on sales projections?
That's a good question. Usually when we have a new product, so it's either one of two things. One, either we suggested it to the client based on, seeing different keywords that we're searching and we didn't have a relevant product to match that. So we have an idea about, how many searches you can reasonably get a month. And based on that, you figure out, okay, what's my click-through rate going to be, similar to what we were saying a bit earlier in the show. If I have 1,000 searches a month and, I get a 1% click-through rate. So we're talking about, that's going to be 10 clicks a month. And if I get one order from that, then that's one sale. And obviously you can play around with how many keywords and so forth to get your idea. And the other approach is just another client sources different designs. He's in a niche that is very design driven. And so, once they get to, we just don't project, we see the new product has accumulated enough reviews to advertise it, and we go, and whatever we're able to advertise successfully, we go. We try to double down. And I'm sorry that's not as helpful as you might like, but there's different approaches for different clients, and that's the reality of what we work with.
Yeah, and to be completely honest, it's like Mike Tyson famously said, I keep quoting famous people, but Mike Tyson has said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And it's this, whether it's boxing or selling on Amazon, everybody has a plan. All numbers look good on a spreadsheet until you get out there and you start working out. And maybe your numbers are better. Maybe they're worse. Maybe it's not what you thought one way or the other, but something's going to change. So a lot of it comes down to, you can come up with projections. It's what is the data telling you? So usually like with my Amazon guy, people are coming to us and they already have a product. And so we're not coming up with projections of like, hey, here's what we think is going to happen. We might say, okay, here's what the data says today. Here's where we see opportunities based on what the data is telling us with keywords and ranking and things of that nature. So here's things we could do. But at the end of the day, a projection is just almost like trying to play with a crystal ball or tarot cards.
Sorry, just 1 minute. Excuse me.
No.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. So Why So Cute says, want to ask your approach on PPC for seasonal products during off-season to maintain rank without wasting money. So for those people who are selling winter products and we're coming out of winter, What should they do? We're officially out of winter, aren't we?
It depends what part of the country you're in.
That's true. That's true. Although I think like we're officially in spring now.
There you go.
I didn't even notice that. I think the other day was like the first day of spring.
Yeah, that's actually something we do with a lot. We have a lot of seasonal products. You know, unfortunately, a lot of the time it means you do need to lower the bids if you want to maintain a certain target ACoS or total ACoS, whatever your approach is to doing that. So besides for lowering the bids, one of the things you can do is you can test new creative with your sponsored brands. And interestingly, the stuff that works in the high season is not necessarily what sells in the off season. So that's something to take into account. And I'll share a couple of pieces of data that can also help you to get directional ideas about what's going on. And if it's really seasonal or if it's maybe something else, it could be, for example, one of your products, if went out of stock, or that a direct competitor with a very similar product dropped price, whatever. So one of the ways to tell the things apart, Amazon Brand Analytics search term report. So I don't know if you guys in production maybe are able to bring that up, screenshot, but basically it ranks these search terms on Amazon by how frequently they're searched over a certain period of time. So you have on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, quarterly. And so if you take a weekly basis, you can compare the last several weeks or even a few months and see what is the trend on my main keyword or on a handful of these main keywords, and see, is this getting searched more frequently, less frequently, and how different is the thing. And the higher frequency that it is being searched, the more significant that difference is, right? So the difference between number one and number 100 search term on Amazon is dramatic. Like, we're talking about millions more searches per day. The difference between number 100 and number 500 is also dramatic, but 100 and 500 are a lot more comparable, right? Like if you bounce around between, let's say, 300 and 500, that's pretty similar versus going from 300 to 2,000 versus 5,000, 10,000, right? That's where you can see this is going out of season. Or, for less popular terms, it went from 100,000 to 200,000th most popular search term on Amazon. And it's not just the volume of searches, the volume and the conversion rates tend to match up pretty well. So when more people are searching, they're also tending to convert more. So for example, now we're going to season for summer products, right? You'll see that the conversion rates go up, and come August, September, October, those will drop off along with the volume. So to maintain rank is difficult unless you're willing to be flexible with your ACoS targets. And that's, I guess, the number one thing you can do. Just be like, okay, I accept that, in high season, we have more profit coming in, and, maybe put some of that aside to get you through the low season. Accept that you need to sacrifice the organic rank, or if you want to maintain the same, if you maintain the same ACoS, or accept that you can have a higher ACoS to maintain the same organic.
Do you suggest lowering bids, keeping the bids the same? I mean, because at the end of the day, like you're saying, if the keyword ranking has gone down for the keyword itself as to Amazon's search volume, then there's less people searching for it, so you're not going to get as many clicks. So you will spend less money, but how do you manage it when it truly is off season? Yeah,
it's difficult. Once upon a time, we tried to bid exactly to the target plus a little margin for the difference between the bid and your cost per click. And now what we do is we call it the salami method. So if I'm at a $2 bid and the math tells me I need to be at a $1 bid, we won't straight away bid $1. We'll go to, let's say, $1.50 or something. And then in a week from now, I can still lower it more if I need to lower it more. But sometimes because the conversion rate is not static, right? Like you could just have an off week and then your ACoS looks terrible, but it bounces back the next week, right? The seasons don't tend to just shift super dramatically from one week to the next. You have things like Prime Day or you know, the cutoff before before Christmas, things like that, where you need to drop your bids hard because people are not going to get in time for the 25th. But otherwise, you can keep in mind, even if I have a lower conversion rate last week, maybe it's a little bit higher if it's been trending higher, except for that, and just go down in increments if that's the approach to maintain the lower ACoS, to maintain the same ACoS target.
Got it. All right. So next up, we probably have a question or time for one or two more questions. Arslan Alam says, my variations are just different pack sizes, 1, 2, etc. Should I go with variations, like a parent-child variation, or single listings?
I think single listings. How about you, Kevin? How would you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends.
Sorry. I meant variations.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I was going to say,
variations and parentation.
if it's a clear, like, okay, you have a variation of 1, and that's probably going to get the most clicks and the most whatever, especially with price. But some people might be like, oh, a 3-pack or a 2-pack, it's not double the price. And sometimes you can have a lower price on a 2 or 3-pack and actually make more money, because chances are if they're like, you know, shrink wrapped together or something, you oftentimes aren't going to spend double the fulfillment fee. So your 15% commission is going to be proportional to the price. But even if the price isn't double, that means you're not going to pay double in commission, and you're also not going to pay double in fulfillment fees. So it could be worth it. So, you know, to even have it at a lower price. And so sometimes once they're on that page and they see it, like, oh, I can get a 3-pack and it's, you know, only twice the price or something like that, whatever the math makes sense to.
That's a great
you
tip.
can oftentimes do better there. So that would be my suggestion. So it kind of becomes an upsell on that. So kind of like, you know, when like anytime you buy anything, whether on Amazon or anywhere else, it's like before you get to put in your credit card, they're like offering you other stuff. And so, you know, those deals at the point of, you know, decision, point of sale can be impactful. All right. So this will be our last one here. We'll do this here pretty quick. Comment from Instagram. Manish Murthy says, hi, I launched 72 ASINs during last year, February 2025. Initially, I spent $100 to $150. I do not get much sales and reduce the budget. Slowly, I get 35% tacos. 72 ASINs is lots doing all at once. So that might be a lot to do all at once. Any thoughts on that one?
I'm not sure what the question is. If you didn't get much sales, I can't make all the ASIN to work, so I got huge storage fees last year. So is it wrong to launch more ASINs at once? It sounds like you've answered your own question. If I'm not missing something here.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, like maybe why does it keep coming back up? All right, and then I think we might be able to throw in one more question here real quick. I'm just trying to find a good one that we can answer quickly. Let's do this one from Anthony. Yeah, my landed cost is about $220. I have a higher ticketed product. I'm assuming after hearing all this, it works differently from a lower cost product in terms of strategy for PPC. Well, I guess the only thing that would really be different on a higher price product is you're probably going to have a lower conversion rate. But at the end of the day, it's just all algebra. If
we're talking about landed costs per unit at $220, not per pallet or whatever, then, you know, if a rule of thumb you're selling about 3 times higher, that's close to, you know, $660 per unit ish, give or take.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit less. I'm not sure exactly about the dynamics of your thing. So yeah, what Kevin said, definitely you're likely to have a much lower conversion rate. And I would say you need to budget for the either for the PPC Or if you're getting, you know, you said you had new content from Mag, maybe just try, you know, lowering the price as much as you're able to tolerate. Are you able to tolerate just having some break-even sales to get more reviews coming in, and, you know, figure out from the query report what search terms are driving that traffic organically, and moving on things from that way. Like, PPC is great, but, you know, Amazon, I think Bezos said several times, you know, people are not going to get tired of having cheaper prices, and they're not going to get tired of having free shipping. And that's
Right.
just, you know, a big dynamic there. So if, you know, your competitors are sourcing for similar prices and they're selling for 660, if you can sell it for 600, just for example, that might be your way to get Amazon to show you and start moving sales. Get some of that cash back in, and you know, hopefully once you have a bit more cash coming in, you can work on testing out either some PPC, or, you know, just continue pursuing that strategy if that works for you.
Awesome. Well, for folks who want to learn more or follow you, where should they go, David?
Yeah, you guys can check out 11 Ads for Brands, and we have an offer where we'll get your ACoS down 20% over 6 weeks, and that's basically guaranteed. When I say 20%, I don't mean from like 40% to 20%. I mean, if your ACoS is, for example, 40%, 10% of that would be 4, right? So that'll be 36%. Getting you down 20% would mean to get you down to 32%. Depending on where you're at, it could be more, but at least by that amount. And so you can get your PPC a lot more profitable very quickly, and you know, it's basically guaranteed. So why don't you check that out if you're looking for services? And if you want to learn more about PPC, then we have a YouTube channel here as well. Yeah, you guys can check that out. 11 Ads for Brands. There's the URL. Thanks very much.
And that's 011 Ads
Yeah,
for Brands, correct?
Thank you. 011, exactly. And we're also on YouTube. Steve's given me some great tips. I'm trying to live up to the leader to make some good content and help share PPC education on YouTube. So you can check that out also. 11 I think it's 11 Amazon PPC on YouTube, or Gab Goldberg.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Good deal. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. Kevin, Gilbert, Michelle, thank you so much.